Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem and here is the news. For 656 days, Ukraine defends itself against the Russian invasion. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy visits the US, reports Ukrainska Pravda. Yesterday, he met Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Charles Brown at the National Defense University. Zelenskyy stated that at the meeting they discussed challenges to global security, developments at the front line, and further Ukrainian-American defense cooperation. Later, he also met the leadership of US defense companies and talked about the idea of creating a defense hub in Europe. According to Zelenskyy, such a hub should be located on the territory of Ukraine, as it has a lot of practical experience gained through the war. He also noted that in order to implement this idea, Kyiv is ready to quickly make all the necessary decisions, simplify bureaucratic procedures, and place orders. The head of state emphasized that Ukraine is ready and will produce more ammunition and military equipment, but it needs support from such powerful companies. In particular, it is about the joint production of artillery ammunition, air defense, artillery, and missile systems. Foreign Minister of Ukraine Dmytro Kuleba met his Hungarian counterpart Petr Szijjártó for the first time since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion, reports European Pravda. The Ukrainian foreign minister said he had an hour-long sincere conversation with Szijjártó. The key topic of the meeting was the upcoming decision of the European Council to open negotiations on Ukraine's membership in the EU, which has been blocked by Hungary. Contacts between Kyiv and Budapest have intensified ahead of the European Council meeting on 14-15 December, where the decision to open accession talks with Ukraine and approve macrofinancial assistance is to be considered. Szijjártó said after meeting that the draft of the decision is not final and that there is more work to be done on it. Earlier, Volodymyr Zelenskyy met with Viktor Orban, Hungarian Prime Minister, at the inauguration of the Argentinian president. And last week, Andriy Yermak, head of the president's office, spoke to Szijjártó by phone. However, after these talks, Orban called the Spanish presidency of the EU Council and tried to persuade them not to raise the issue of opening negotiations with Ukraine at the summit. We would really appreciate if you could recommend us to your friends and family, as well as share information on social media. This way more people would learn about the podcast and truth about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Alexander Syrskyi, commander of the ground forces of Ukraine, informed that the Russian troops are seeking to capture the village of Sinkivka, Kharkiv Oblast, eastern Ukraine, in order to pave the way for the blockade of the town of Kupiansk, reports Channel 24. According to Syrskyi, the Russians are suffering heavy personnel losses and have started to move their reserve assault formations to the area. He added that the Russian forces are also conducting intense offensive actions near the settlements of Novoselivske, Stelmachivka, Liman Pershий, and towards Siversk. The Russians are also focusing considerable efforts on the Bakhmut front north and west of the city. They employ an airborne unit, special forces, and the 200th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Northern Fleet for assault operations. Syrskyi stressed that the Ukrainian defenders are steadfastly holding their positions. He added that the Russian casualties in the east outnumber those of the Ukrainian defense forces by about 8 times. Nevertheless, the Russians heavily rely on their numbers. The commander emphasized that in November alone, the defense forces killed about 11,000 Russian troops and destroyed more than 1,100 pieces of military equipment, including 130 tanks and 260 pieces of artillery and mortars of various calibers. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast. We're a commercial initiative of just 2 people and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.